Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So we're looking at polynomial operations, and we're focusing on multiplication of polynomials. And this is the second part of multiplication of polynomials. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about the product of a binomial and a polynomial. Okay, I'm sorry, and a trinomial. So no, no trinomial, trinomial. Okay, so we're talking about the situation if I have something like this, right? So if I'm looking at basically x plus 5, for instance, and then 2, and then for instance, I have x squared minus 3x plus 2, right? Now, if I have a situation like this, then what I want to consider is what is going on here. This is a binomial, and this is my trinomial, okay? So what I want to do here is I want to see, well, how can I multiply this? Really, the way I multiply this is just like we've been doing with binomial, binomial is basically just use distributive property. So over here, I'm going to distribute this x, the first term, to not just the first and second, but the third term as well. And then same thing for the second term. The second term, I'm going to distribute it to the first, the second, and the third. Okay, so how do I do this? Let's do it together. So I go x times x squared, that's x cubed, and then x times negative x, negative 3x, right? So this one over here. So then I'm going to have negative 3. So I do coefficient with coefficient. That's negative 3 multiplied by 1. So that's negative 3. And then x times x, that's x squared. I do negative x multiplied by 2. So the last term, I get negative 2x. And then now I'm looking at the second term. So I go 5 multiplied by x squared. That's plus 5x squared. I go 5 multiplied by the second term over here. So negative 3x. So I do the negative 3 with the 5. I get negative 15x. And positive 2 with 5, that I multiply them, I get plus 10. Okay, so now I want to simplify this expression. So what I do is I collect like terms. Okay, so we're going to collect like terms. All right, so let's collect like terms here. X cubed is one of its own. There isn't any other x cubed. Then over here, I'm going to have negative 3x and positive 5x. So I'm going to go negative 3x squared, sorry, plus 5x squared. And then over here, we have 2x and 15x. So I'm going to put those beside each other. 2x minus 15x. And the 10 is one of its own, so I keep it on its own, plus 10. Okay? All right, now let's simplify these like terms. So I'm going to have x squared, x cubed, and then negative 3x squared plus 5x squared. I do the coefficients on their own. So I go, oh, okay, that's 5. If I have 5x squares and I take away 3x squares, then I'm left with a positive 2x squares. Same thing over here. I have 2x squared, 2x, and negative 15x. I'm left with negative 13x plus 10. And then over here, I can see that now I have each of these terms is one of its own. So x cubed, x squared, x, and 10. Okay, so I can see that I don't need to do anything further over here. This is as simplified as this product will go. So when I took the product of a binomial and a trinomial, the only difference here was that instead of expanding twice, I had to expand a third time. Okay, so this is the product of a binomial and a trinomial. Now, what if I'm talking about the product of 3 binomials? Okay, so let's say I'm talking about the product of 3 binomials. Okay, so we're getting the product of 3 binomials. Well, if I had, for instance, x plus 1, x minus 2, and x plus 3, okay? Well, the only thing, oh, whoops. The only thing that I'll do different here is that recognize that if this x plus 3 was not there, right? Imagine this entire thing wasn't here. Well, what would I have done? I would have just done the same multiplication of a binomial and a binomial. I would have done x, and negative 2, x, 1 and x, 1 and negative 2, simplified that, and there you go. Now, when I have this extra binomial over here, all I do is ignore it for the time being, expand and simplify these two binomials, and then we'll see what we can do after. All right, so have a look at this. So I'm going to go first term with first term with second term. So I'll have x times x, that's x squared, x times negative 2, that's negative 2x. And then I'll do 1 with x, 1 with negative 2. So I'll go 1 multiplied by x, that's 1x. 1 multiplied by negative 2, that's negative 2. So now I have this expression over here, right? So I have x squared plus, minus 2x plus x negative 2. And we haven't touched this yet, so we're going to keep it the same. We haven't touched this binomial. And then I can simplify this a bit further. I can go x squared, collect these like terms. So I'll go negative 2x plus x, that's negative x minus 2. And then I haven't touched this yet, so I keep it here. Now recognize, what did we just create? We created the same scenario we had initially, where I have a trinomial, 3 terms, and a binomial. So all I'm doing is doing what we did initially, which is multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. So I'll do exactly what we did, multiply each term like this, okay? Whether I start from the trinomial or the binomial, both work, okay? So I'm going to color code here so that it works out for us, just like that, and then like that, okay? So I do each term with each term. I end up getting over here x squared with x, that's x cubed, x squared with 3, that's plus 3x squared. And then the next one is, I did it in pink. I do negative x with x, that's negative x squared. And then negative x with 3, that's negative 3x. And then the last one I've done in blue here, negative 2 with x, that's negative 2x. And negative 2 with 3, that's negative 6. Okay, so just recognize that when I'm multiplying a binomial with a trinomial, whether I have the binomial, so if I have the binomial in front and then the trinomial like that, I could expand from the binomial 3 times. And if I have the trinomial over here, I could expand from each of these variables, right? But honestly, I could have gone backwards as well. I could have gone x with all of these and 3 with all of these. So basically what we did over here, and both of them would give me the same exact answer. So it doesn't really matter, as long as I recognize that every term has to be multiplied by the corresponding term. So x, for instance, in this bracket has to be multiplied by all of these 3. And 5 over here has to be multiplied by all of these 3 as well. Just like over here, this x has to be multiplied by both of them. This x has to be multiplied by both of them. And this 2 has to be multiplied by both of them. Okay, as long as I recognize that, then I'm good to go. All right, so let's simplify this over here. I'm going to have x cubed. I collect like terms, so they've already been collected over here. So x squared and negative 3x squared and negative x squared. That's going to be plus 2x squared. And then negative 3x, minus 2x, that's negative 5x. And then minus 6. And this is my simplified form over here of this multiplication of 3 binomials, okay? All I need to do is ignore the third binomial, multiply out the first 2, and then I'll have a trinomial, and I'll multiply it by my binomial, okay? And I get this expanded expression over here. All right, everyone, that's it for this. That's really it for this section. I hope that helped, and I'll see you in the example videos. Bye.